What's on, ladies and gentlemen? My name's Ross, I like games, and today we've got a debut. Now, we know a bunch of characters are making their debut in Wave 3. We've had the fire cons, for goodness sake. But we're getting the debut of a character for which we've been waiting, frankly. It's Sideswipe. Yay! We're getting our first ever Sideswipe card. And he's kind of a little bit sadistic in that when other characters get KO'd, he gets stronger. Now, if we start off having a look at the stats, he is an 8 cost, but carrying on the trend we've seen lately, this is not a Wave 1 8 cost. A Wave 1 8 cost would have attack of 4, health of 12, defense of 2. Here we have an attack of 4, or 2, health of 11, and defense of 1. It's a weak, fragile, frail character, although the attack is alright. Here's the thing though. We've got some really nice skills. In bot mode, when one of your other characters is KO'd during your opponent's turn, you untap this character. So essentially what you want to be doing with Private Sideswipe is just making sure it's always tapped. The worst case scenario, well, not the worst case scenario, but definitely a bad thing to happen here, is when you're just kind of sitting there, chilling, and your opponent KOs something when you're already untapped. Because then, you don't get to use the skill here. That's a very, very bad thing, ladies and gentlemen. So frankly, yeah, Private Sideswipe, you want to be in bot mode when your other characters get KO'd. The thing is, we need to kind of keep him alive. This is one of the few characters for which I'm looking at this and going, yeah, actually, stealthiness is really good here. Because you need to keep this character on the field. Now, to be fair, if Sideswipe is the first one with whom you attack, he is then your only tapped character, and if he's your only tapped character, stealthiness does nothing, because there are no other characters your opponent can take out, and stealthiness doesn't say it can't be attacked, it says it can't be attacked if your opponent has a choice, which they don't if you're the only tapped character. My point is, this takes a little bit of playing. Certainly something like Force Field is going to be really good here, and with a health of 11, you might even want to consider a little bit of healing. Maybe playing a medic or something along those lines. Because you want this to be your last character. Very much like the secret rare Bumblebee from Wave 1, you want this to be your last character on the field. Because every time one of your characters gets KO'd, you untap, and the other skill we'll get to in a minute also revolves around having characters KO'd. The other thing is, there's a reason to play as wide as you can with this. There's a reason to play just a whole bunch of tiny little characters, maybe things like Micromasters, for instance, so that you can play, well, you can only go 4 wide here, but if you play Sideswipe, that's 8 stars, which means you've got 17 stars to play with, so 2 6s and a 5, or 2 5s and a 7, which does exist. And then every time a character gets KO'd, you untap, and you go for it. But of course, if we flick into alt mode here, when you flip to this mode, you get +2 attack until the end of turn for each character in your KO area. Now, quick bit of housekeeping here. Don't play this with Battle Masters, because Battle Masters, when KO'd, they turn into upgrades. And then when the upgrade gets removed, it is the upgrade that goes into your KO area, and that is not a character, it's an upgrade. Battle Masters and this do not get on, do not play them together, it doesn't work like you want it to. But if you can get a few characters in the KO area, we can roll with this. This could be really nice. Now, to be fair, if you've only got one character in the KO area, then you might as well just be in bot mode. Because you get +2, it puts you up to 4, bot mode's got 4. Now, the thing to remember is, if you flick into alt mode, maybe with Start Your Engines or Rapid Conversion or something like that, and then flick back into bot mode, you do keep the bonus. And it's not easy to do, but that might be the way to go here, or at least the way to try. Because let's say you've got 3 characters in the KO area, which is possible, because you can play 4 wide. You flick into alt mode to give yourself +6 attack. But that's still only 8. If you can then flick back into bot mode, all of a sudden you've got an attack of 10, and that's really good. But this is not an easy character to use. Please don't think this is the kind of character where you whack it down and go, yay, now I've got this great big attacker and it's going to win. Because your opponent is going to be going after this. Your opponent is going to look at this and go, oh, hang on a second. That's not ideal. I should probably go after that character because he gets stronger as the game goes along. So it's not always a guarantee that this is going to work. Your opponent can just pile on this nice and early, because that's the other thing. You've got this weird dichotomy going on the one hand, you want this tapped so that one of your other characters gets KO'd, you get untapped. On the other hand, if you tap too early, your opponent just goes after it and KOs it. But if you don't tap it too early, because remember your opponent can only attack tapped characters, but if you don't tap it early, you run the risk of one of your other characters being KO'd while this is still untapped and you don't get to use the skill. I did warn you, it was an awkward character. Now, in terms of the alt mode skill here, might I remind you that I Still Function is still a thing. Return one of your KO'd characters that has 12 stars or fewer to the battlefield, repair 1 damage from it, and at the end of turn, KO it. So maybe you return this when you've already got a couple characters in the KO area. The thing is, even that's a little bit awkward, because what you would essentially do, right, you would return it, and presumably it got KO'd in bot mode. So then you flip it into alt mode, but then you'd still only get a +4 attack, so you'd be sitting there on 6, which isn't that much more than bot mode, unless you had something like a rapid conversion, but then in order to play rapid conversion, you must also have played brainstorm, and then you're just into awkward territory. It's an option. It is an option, but it's also just a little bit awkward. Speaking of I Still Function, let's be super clear. We need to focus on the wording ever so quickly. It does say very clearly, when one of your other characters is KO'd during your opponent's turn, untap this, it stops you abusing I Still Function. The wording is extremely deliberate. You can see where they're going with this. Now, you are a car here, and being a car is quite nice because you've got turbo boosters and start your engines, either of which actually does untap. So that's kind of nice. You can really start playing around. If you can play the right cards at the right time, you can really start having a bit of a play with untapping here and getting extra turns or really extra attacks, and that could work. That could be a good use for this card. Now, you are also a melee character, and melee helps. It means you've got Power Sword, which is awesome to give you bold free. It means you've got body armor, which is lovely to give you tough free. Could be important for trying to keep you on the field, which, as I've said, really is your big challenge here. I mean, it also means that things like Thundercracker, for instance, can do extra cheeky damage, but if they do, they do. The point is, I like this character. But it is not an easy character to use. It's got below average health. It's got below average defense. It's got a skill that relies on one of your other characters being KO'd while you're tapped, which is awkward as I've explained. And it's got an alt mode skill that gives you an attack bonus when you flip to it, but you're already 2 attack down on the bot mode, so you really do, if you want to make the most of this, you need to make sure that all of your other characters get KO'd before this one, and then you need to get the double flips going in one turn to really take advantage of the alt mode skill. That ain't easy, ladies and gentlemen. Possible? Oh my goodness, yes. And people are going to make it work, and people are going to play some fun decks with this. But it really strikes me, and again I've got to draw the comparison to Bumblebee Legendary Warrior here, as the kind of character around which you really need to build a deck. Having stuff like Force Field to try and keep yourself alive, or maybe even Stealthiness. And I'm not sure it's good enough or sturdy enough to really make you want to build a deck around it. Either way, I like this card. I think there's a lot of potential. It's incredibly interesting. And look, if nothing else, we've finally got our very own Sideswipe. And we've been waiting for Sideswipe, ladies and gentlemen. We've been waiting. So that's what I think about Sideswipe, but I would very much like to know what you think about Sideswipe. So please do let me know in the comment section. Go nuts! be nice. And then make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, and follow me on Twitter at the Wossy, where we talk about games like Transformers and a whole bunch of others. But by far the most important thing as always, look after yourselves till next time. Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross, and you've been watching Wossy Plays.